Well, Romaine, here we are once again for I can't even use my fingers anymore. Wait, I gotta like include a pen. Now we're summer sessions 11.
How about you do your 10 and I'll do one?
Is that the finger you want to use?
That better?
Exactly. That's a little bit better. All right.
What's with the scarf?
Well, it's technically still summer, but weather-wise, it's a little more fall. And even
Ah,
though for years I made fun of the tank top and scarf gaze, I am not myself a tank top gay. So actually, I don't think I even own a tank top.
no, you're a homosexual. That's what it says on your
Right.
shirt.
This is from from the shop. And
Yeah.
I figured, you know what? I think that the summer sessions is probably creating some FOMO among our viewers, people who
Hmm.
have missed seeing us in person, because they
Uh-huh.
haven't gone on cruises or come to Dollywood with us, and
Sure.
people who miss out on the live daily radio show, like that kind of thing. So I thought I would or haven't purchased things in our shop. We do have fun, sort of non-DNR-ish, to like directly DNR things.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this is in the shop. The
Oh,
FOMO shirt is in the shop.
you just
If you
reminded me of
too are
something.
a FOMO sexual. But yeah, so I don't have any tank tops. It's like the biggest difference. There were not a lot of differences between me and Jonathan, but he was a tank top person, probably because he grew up in Florida.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm not a tank top person. But
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you in a tank top in all the years I've known you.
I don't even own a tank top.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, no. But you
Interesting.
never know. Life is full of surprises. You never know where things are going to go. Maybe next week I'll be in a tank top.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I agree. Well, thank you for coming once again to our far too long summer session series
It's because
here.
Derek talks too much.
You know what? You
What?
also are pretty gabby over there.
Not me. I don't know what you're talking about, but
I
whatever.
think you
Okay.
do. Okay.
All right.
Anyway, with the summer sessions, this is our penultimate episode, right? The second to the last episode that we
Mm-hmm.
have of this summer sessions 2024. So we hope people are enjoying them. Next week will be they'll be the last Tuesday before it's no longer officially summer. So we got to wrap this mother up. But don't worry, because our live daily radio show continues every day for the foreseeable future. Check your local listings at dnrstudios.com. Remember, you can download the DNR Cast app and you can listen to our show everywhere you go. It's super easy. It's as easy now to listen to our show, pretty close how it was at the old place. So,
Right.
and remember, you can use the discount code 2024 to try the show for free when you do that. Okay, so
Okay.
here's how summer sessions works for those of you who are just jumping in near the end for some reason. So we have our question of the day, which Maria does in our Facebook group every day. So we include a question here. Then we go to a recent story that we didn't cover on the show, but we wish we had.
Okay.
And then we will wrap things up with our What's Hot About segment, where we talk about somewhere in the world that we have been in the past or we are going in the future on a DNR adventure, and you can find out what we like about it. So even if you don't join us, there might be good tips there.
Yeah.
And then finally, we will go to viewer feedback and questions. And I do have to say thank you for the people who have been posting comments below. I'll do the thing that they do all the time. Like and subscribe and comment below. There will not be anything around me when I do that. But anyway, please like, subscribe, comment, and enjoy the show. Okay. Romaine, are you ready for today's
Uh,
question of the day slash week?
yeah, I think I'm ready. I am ready. Let's do it. So we will start with the question of the day. What is the best radio station you listened to as a kid?
Well, I mean, since we've been doing this radio show for 21 years and I'm 29 years old,
Yeah,
obviously, our own radio station is my favorite radio station from my
obviously,
childhood.
obviously. Why are you wandering away? What's happening?
I was just seeing if anybody was gonna like boo me or come in
Oh
here and
no.
take
Mm-mm.
me away.
No.
Okay, so we have talked about on the show in the past that there was
Yeah.
a radio station in San Francisco when I was a kid, KUME, with the tagline, "Don't touch that dial, it's got cum on it."
Oh my
But I
God.
don't know that I was a regular KUME listener. But when I was a kid, and I'm 29, it was for Phantom Menace. But when I was a kid, I won tickets to see Star Wars on the radio
That's pretty
and
cool.
got to go to a radio promoted screening to see Star Wars. And that was pretty exciting. And they must not have had a lot of callers because my friends, Maury and Dylan, who lived down the street, whose mother, Barbara Harwood, was like my mom's best friend, they also won tickets. So all of us got to go to
Nice.
San Francisco. It was just like, we were literally the only people who called in.
Probably.
So that was very exciting as a kid to win tickets on the radio. And, with our show, we have done giveaways and things on the
Oh
show
yeah.
over the years. And I love that. It's one of my favorite things about radio is the like giveaway stuff. So I don't remember what that radio station was, but thank you, unknown radio station, for making my childhood dreams come true. And that was going to a radio promoted screening for a movie was actually really fun
I bet.
because everyone there was excited. They got free
Right.
tickets and they were happy to be there. And it was a great experience. And then when we lived in LA, my favorite radio station in Los
K-Rock.
Angeles is the
K-Rock, right? I'm
is
right.
what?
Am I
That's
right?
right. The
Yep.
world famous K-Rock.
Because you've talked about it a lot over the years, how much you love K-Rock.
K-Rock, I mean, it's tough because now it's like gone through some corporate management, ownership, and things and
Right.
everything. But K-Rock in its peak in the like 80s and 90s was like a perfect radio station. Like great on-air hosts, really incredible imaging. Like we would go out to California and I would make Romaine listen to K-Rock because the audio elements that they had on the air were like really, really terrific.
Right.
And they play like a good mix of current and past songs, and it's just a very smart radio station. And a lot of people who became famous later came up out of K Rock. It was sort of the quintessential sort of rock radio station, but hilariously, friends of mine in the early 80s that I went to high school with were listening to the radio, and this is probably like 82, 83. But they had become fans of U2 before U2 really blew up in the US.
Oh,
And
okay.
Bono and the rest of U2 was doing an in studio interview at K Rock in their headquarters in Pasadena, which was very close to where we went to high school. And they were in like high school, middle school. And they were so excited that U2 was there and they wanted to meet Bono. And so they like got their like an older friend to drive them to the radio station because they wanted to like meet
That's kind
U2.
of awesome, though. Did they get to meet him?
No, because by the time they got there, they were already gone. But the DJ
Oh,
was like, do you want to come in and have some coffee or something? Sorry, they're not here anymore. But that's
oh,
how
that's such
like
a bummer.
yeah, but that's how sort of small the
Right.
radio station was in the early 80s.
That's kind of awesome.
Because it was not like the top radio station in Los Angeles.
Right.
I think it became like the premier radio station. But early on, it was just like a semi-underground rock station
Right.
that like people just like Gen Xers really got into. So anyway, so that is the story of K-Rock. And I used to listen to them all the time when I was in LA, even though
Right.
quite a bit of their music is not my music, like my go-to music, but it just shows how good of a radio station it was and how well it was programmed that even
Right.
somebody like me, who was not necessarily the target audience musically, was into it because of the vibe. And I mean, they did pick good songs. So it wasn't like, oh, they're playing a bunch of crap I don't care about. I mean, I probably liked 2/3 of the songs that they played.
Right.
which is pretty good given that I'm not a rock person. All right, there you go. Romaine, did they even
So,
have radio stations when you were a kid growing up?
I mean, they did, but I actually didn't listen to the radio a lot growing up. Um, in fact, I can't even tell you the name of the local radio station in Sheridan, Wyoming, where I grew up. So, I did visit it when I was in like sixth or seventh grade because we had like an enrichment day where you got to go and like explore different career fields. And I ended up at the radio station on that day, which is kind of funny considering I didn't want to be a radio person way back then. I never really wanted to be a radio person. It just kind of happened. So, but like we learned how to back then, you actually had like when you were making commercials and things, you actually had to like cut physical like tape
Yeah.
and then glue it back together to make edits. And so we learned how to do that on that particular day. But so I didn't really listen to radio as a kid, but I will say my favorite radio station. I'm such a fucking nerd.
Yeah.
My favorite radio station is actually a local station here in New York at the tri-state area called 1010 Wins.
Oh, Jesus
It's an
Christ.
AM radio station. It's not even FM. It's an AM radio station. Their slogan is you give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world. And what I love about it is because the only time I ever listen to the radio is when I'm in the car. So I would listen to it for the traffic reports because I want to know what the tunnel traffic was like anytime I was going into the city.
That's
So
right. Traffic on the tens.
yep. And so I would listen for the traffic reports, and then in the other whatever 9 minutes, I would get the news around like the top headlines in the world, basically of what was going on in the world. And I love it because they're short little news clips. The hosts are dry and boring, and yet I kind of love them. Yeah, I love that news station. That's probably my favorite radio station. That's probably one of the few that are actually set in my presets. Iris does all the rest of the radio presets. I'm not allowed to touch them. It's pretty much all Iris all the time. So yeah, I just didn't really grow up listening to a lot of radio. Obviously when I went to work in radio, I started listening to more. And I came to enjoy that. But yeah, I never really grew up listening to radio. Isn't that weird? Considering this would
Uh,
be the field I'd go into.
a little bit, but you probably grew because I mean, this was the whole thing about satellite radio is that the earliest adopters of satellite radio were in the kinds of rural areas where you grew up because there were so few options
Yeah.
to listen.
I
So
think you could
I'm
get like
not
2 or
surprised.
3 stations where I grew up, if that. And
That's
one of them was the local one, the one that
right.
because there was actually a radio tower in Sheridan, Wyoming. But that and I can't remember what it's like KYO or something. I can't remember what the fuck the letters were, but it was stupid. And of course all they
And
played was country music, which I
of course
hated.
they played
So,
country music. What else were they going to play?
boring, horrible. I hate it.
Do you remember when we first started doing the radio show that first summer?
Yeah,
We went to some kind of New York Radio Awards thing. Do you remember this?
I don't.
It was like the first few weeks. It was really early on. And it was the
Okay.
first few
Why did
weeks.
we go to it?
Well, I think it was because they, it was like we bought a table or we had a table and then we went and I think it was really about sort of like we're really in radio so we're trying to get in to the local radio community. Also, I mean they were still trying to hire, because satellite radio
Right.
was growing and I think it was also like what other local
Talent can we scoop
people
up?
could we consider like bringing in. So
Right.
I don't remember exactly why, but
Hmm.
we went, maybe you didn't go, but
I don't remember going to this.
it was like a little like a banquet luncheon thing with like round tables, like the round table with 10 seats,
Yeah.
whatever. And so we went there, and of course, I had not been in New York very long then, and I wasn't commuting. I never listened to the radio locally in New York, so I didn't know anyone. And I would see like there would be commercials for 1010 wins, like on
Right.
local TV and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I knew what it was, but I was not a regular listener. But it was hilarious because at the thing, one of the like they for whatever reason, one of the hosts from 1010 wins was like got up, they got an award or they spoke or something, and they like
Right.
announced they were there, and there was an audible, excited gasp in the room.
because
when they went
people
up.
listen to that station.
Obsessed.
They
People are
finally
obsessed.
they have finally put it on an FM station. I can't remember what the call numbers are, but they finally did give it like an FM station to play on. I still listen to it on 1010 because that's what I remember. Even though the FM one has got like a more solid signal. But yeah, I mean, people love that station. People
Dude.
fucking love that station. And I will tell you, if something happens locally in New York, like some big news thing, the first place I go is not the national news anything. I always go to 1010 Wins to see if it's on there because they are so fast with their stories. Their stringers that they use to source all their stories from are so fast and so good that that's where I always go. Always go. Like when that plane crashed in the Hudson River, I
Hudson.
went to 1010 Wins. And by the way, I was listening to 1010 Wins that afternoon. So like I knew all the stuff because I was listening. Anyway, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. So
So
if you
there you
come to
go.
New
There's our
York,
radio station.
remember on the AM dial, 1010 Wins. Give us 22 minutes. We'll give you the world.
Yeah, it's the
It's
best.
not a paid promotion for 1010 Wins. They're
No,
just
but I
like,
love them. I don't care.
but that's how embedded they are
Oh
in
yeah.
New York.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they must
Mm-hmm.
have millions of listeners a day. Like even
Oh,
still on an AM
easily,
station.
easily.
Because the New York
Yeah.
metro area is like 30 million people. So
Yeah.
I am sure that they are still like a
And the
massive.
vast majority of their listeners are going to be commuters
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm telling you, the whole reason I listen is for the traffic reports. I almost wish they would do the traffic reports twice in 10 minutes, but it's whatever. Because they don't do them often enough. And if you're not paying attention, sometimes it'll go by and you won't even hear it. And you'll be like, and
By
then
the
you have to
way, you
wait
know
10 more
the
minutes.
like the Google Maps and the Waze and everything, they now include real-time
Yeah,
traffic
yeah,
and
no, I
everything.
know, but I hate those stupid things. I hate them.
Okay, Romaine's
I
big on
hate them.
technology.
I am
Okay, let's
not.
move on to a recent story we didn't cover,
Mm.
but we wish it had been on 1010 Wins.
I bet actually I'm willing to bet both of my stories for this week and for next week have been on 1010 Wins. That's how big of a story they are, I think.
Okay.
Or they're the kind of story that 1010 Wins would cover for funny's sake. Well, one of them's funny and one of them's more serious.
Let's hear it.
All right, so I'm going to start with the more serious one this week, and next week I promise I'll bring the funny. But this week, it is about the state of Florida.
Oh God.
So, very recently, Derek, the state of Florida quietly and discreetly scrubbed all the LGBTQ travel stuff from their official state webpage. And they thought no one would notice. Well, of course people noticed because Florida has had a reputation over the last many years of being this kind of anti-gay state with the, don't say gay laws, with DeSantis going after Disney, like all the different things that they have done that have really taken a position of we do not support LGBTQ people in our state. Now, obviously, a lot of this is coming from, I think, DeSantis's office and his personal stances on things. But, several websites have had put travel advisories to LGBTQ people that maybe Florida is not the safest place for them to travel right now, which to me is fucking crazy that we have to have travel advisories for gay people in this country. Like, don't go to this state because you might end up dead. Especially in a state that had one of the most highly profiled and prevalent anti-gay hate crimes with the Pulse shooting. I mean, this is not a state that has a good reputation in the way that they treat gay people. So, and yet there's a lot of gay people that live there. I mean, so many employees over at Disney are gay, like a large number of employees there are gay. There are a lot of, Key West is like a little gay paradise. So there's a lot of gay things happening in the state, and yet this is also happening. So it's a kind of difficult situation, I think, down in Florida. And I feel bad because, when you and I were doing our radio show at the old facility, we had Florida Tourism as one of our sponsors on our radio show when we were promoting Key West and things like that and all the great things that were happening there. And
Fort
so it's kind
Lauderdale.
of Yeah, it's kind of sad to see that a state that used to take a lot of pride in their LGBTQ tourism is now like, no, no, let's just ignore it like it doesn't exist. Like, you gotta wonder how people in Fort Lauderdale and Orlando and Key West feel about something like this, because it really is a slap in the face.
Well, I would imagine that they're feeling pretty demoralized about it. I mean, nobody likes to be sort of blindsided by this kind of thing
Hmm.
because Florida, I mean, especially Key West has a weird uh political cross current thing. Like when we were down, like the last time we were down in Key West, like on a cruise where we stopped there, you can really tell a lot about a town, but like a tourist town, by what is featured in the t-shirt shop windows, right?
Yeah.
And what I found really interesting about Key West is it's very gay. There's like a lot of gay businesses, a lot of pride flags that are out, including at these tourist shops, these t-shirt shops that I will talk about, like what the shirts were that were in the windows. So they would have a pride flag out front. And then in the window, they would have Trump shirts and legalized pot shirts and a pride flag. And so when you think about sort of the political cross currents
That's
of
a weird one.
those three things of like very weird and like a biker culture.
Hmm.
So like an unusual confluence of
Sure.
ideologies or points of view that you would think would be contradictory. But in Key West, there's a lot of just sort of everybody's together. It's not homogeneous in terms of sort of who is there.
Right.
And Key West just has like legacy populations that have lived side by side for a long time at
And
the
and and it seems like in harmony.
yeah.
So why can't the rest of the fucking country do that?
Well, I don't, this is part of the thing about sort of all politics are local,
Right.
is that what we have seen is that sometimes like national vibes do not always match what's happening locally. And you look at sort of how Moms for Liberty has struggled to maintain their positions on school boards all across the country. They have ended up they got a lot of energy and money and enthusiasm early on, but then once they actually started digging into the issues, a lot of people did not like many of their stances.
Right.
But also, like, there was a woman in Texas who was part of the organization and got elected to a school board because she was very concerned about the indoctrination that was going on in schools. And then once she actually got on the school board and dug into the curriculum, she was like, oh, this isn't actually happening. I
What?
ran on this
Shocker.
thing that's not real. And then when she was like, she thought, oh, this will be great news. The other moms will be so thrilled to find out that we don't have this problem here that we're concerned about nationally. And the other moms are like, they got to you. You're one of them now. And then she started getting death threats. And it's like, what the? I thought the people were driven by, wanting the truth and good information, but it turns out no, they're just driven by their ideology. So I think it does create problems in a place like Key West where
Right.
people are sort of living side by side, coexisting without problems. But when these issues become nationalized or like in Florida's case, like a state issue, then I think it makes it harder for people who then they're forced to sort of pick a side in a way that they didn't feel like they had to pick a side. Because
Right.
to me, I mean, I don't live in Florida, and I'm sure there are people in the gay community in Florida who are political, like motivated political, but you don't really think of Florida as a place of like gay activism necessarily. And
Right.
part of it is it's a lot of retirees, it's young people at Disney. So I think that this sort of age gap, because young people are not particularly political, older people don't have the same sort of need to be motivated. They like whatever fight for rights that will take 30 years, they won't live long enough to see. So they're not necessarily as motivated by the, urgency of this kind of thing. Anyway, so I
Gotcha.
just see that this may galvanize the gay community in Florida to be more politically active. But even with the Pulse shooting, the state of Florida really rallied around the gay community in that. So they may not have thought that what came of Ron DeSantis was really like a real threat. And so because they had this outpouring of support
Right.
after Pulse. So it's a tricky situation, I think.
It is.
All
It
right.
is. All right.
Thanks.
What's
That
your
was more
story?
political than I thought we were going to get here. Okay, well, let me tell
Never
you
know.
mine. So Travel and Leisure recently polled travelers, Travel and Leisure magazine,
Yeah.
and they have determined the favorite seat for people who like to fly. And this will not come as a surprise, Romaine, to the two of us because it's our favorite too.
It's got to be the window seat.
It is, in fact, the window seat.
Yeah. I
That
mean,
is everyone's favorite.
it's a good seat. You can look out the window when you get bored. You get control of the shade, which is nice. You can lean up against that wall, take a little kitty cat nap. It's definitely the best position for napping, I think, if you're going to
Yeah.
try to sleep. You can lean away from that middle seat person who's usually taking up too much space anyway. Although I got to be honest, Derek, I have become a real fan of the aisle, which
Okay.
is a surprise because I used to love the window seat. I still love a window seat, but I am not adverse to an aisle seat now. What I like about the aisle seat is I don't have to ask anyone to stand up if I need to pee, and I need to pee a lot because I drink a lot of water these days. So I do find that I like an aisle seat. The only thing that's annoying about an aisle seat is when either people are walking down the aisle and they just bump into you, like because they're assholes, or if like the cart lady comes to buy and she's not paying any attention and she
Texas.
fucking like smashes into you. I've had that. I had one lady on a recent flight, whatever the last flight I think I took. The flight attendant, she was kind of a twat because literally every time she passed me, she didn't just like bump into me. She like slammed her whole body up against me. And it wasn't like I was hanging out in the aisle or something. I had my arm on the armrest, but that's about it. And she would just like shove her ass practically in my face every fucking time. I was so annoyed by this bitch. I was like, if you hit me one more time, I'm gonna have fucking words with you. That's how annoying she was. I think she just hated her life, and like I think she just took it out by smashing into people to annoy them. I really do. I think she hated her job.
They're
But
all going to smash at you.
I'm not surprised the window seat is a favorite. That actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I like the window seat because you do actually get slightly more space because of the shape of the plane. You do get a little more room to maneuver. And I also, because I sleep on the plane, it's much easier to throw my head against the side of the plane
Right.
and uh, sleep. But I understand. I think if the seats were bigger and the aisles were wider, the aisle seat would be a great seat. But the aisle is so narrow that the cart can barely get down it now. And a human person can barely get down it without hitting one person on either side. Like, it's
Right.
not a good experience, but
No.
you know, anyway. So we're, in general, not a surprise. Window is the best seat. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to what's hot about
Okay.
Romaine.
Yes.
What is hot about Walt Disney World?
Oh man, there's so many great things about Walt Disney World. It's hard to narrow them down. So I'm going to narrow them down to just a couple.
Okay.
The first one is the Guardians of the Galaxy ride in Epcot. I usually hate Epcot as a park because I find it boring, but I will go to Epcot every trip now because of this new ride. It is like Space Mountain on crack. Everything about that ride, it's probably, in my opinion, and I really do believe this, I think it might be the best ride that Disney has ever come up with. In terms of thrill rides, like it is thrilling, it is exciting. I could care less about the storyline. I love the music choices that they put into it. I love the ride. It is fucking awesome. Awesome, awesome. I also really love the Neutron ride. The new Tron ride is super fun and exciting. I'm so glad they brought it to the United States. Because it had started in, was it Hong Kong or Shanghai? One of
I think
them.
Shanghai.
Was the first one that had the Tron ride. And I have to say, it is also a really fun, thrilling ride. Worth experiencing at least a few times because I love it.
After you
Even
got
though
off, did you do the neutron dance?
I did not.
You're welcome, everybody.
Thank you. But I will say it's a bit of a hike to get up to the ride and then to come back down. Like the way they built the queue is it's a hike.
Gotta get your
But
steps in.
it's okay because it's worth it. It's a great, great ride. And then Walt Disney World. I mean, there are just so many great things about Disney World that is different from Disneyland. It's a bigger park. Your feet are going to get more tired and a little more sore walking throughout the parks and back and forth and here and there and everywhere. I really like God, I like so much about. I like the Haunted Mansion a lot in Disney World. I think they did a really great job making it different from Disneyland. I mean, I love even the Pirates of the Caribbean ride there is a
You
little
mean the highlights
improved.
of the Caribbean?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there I just think there's some really fun changes that they made in that park to make it different from Disneyland. But also in some ways I think improved upon a few things.
Well, I will just say that my just somewhat quickly because we are way over time again.
Yep, you did it. It's your fault.
It's also your fault, but we're
I
in
didn't
this
name
together,
3 radio
sweetie.
stations.
We're in this together.
Right.
I have to say, my favorite of the hotels on property is the Wilderness Lodge.
Very cool.
And it
Very
is
cool.
not on the monorail track, so it's very hard for people who have kids in strollers to stay there. And that's my favorite thing about it. Is there are fewer like little kids, babies crying and that kind of thing. So if you don't love kids in your Disney experience, the Wilderness Lodge. Plus, you can get a room with bunk beds.
That
So
is
you could
cool.
like sleep in a bunk bed if you want. It's fun.
It's a
Okay.
fun
Uh,
hotel.
and then the last time we were there, I had never done this before. But the last time we were there, we got invited to be in a boat to watch the boat parade.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
And you can see it from like some of the hotels and everything. But this is such a holdover from the early 70s, and I'm really into sort of the old stuff that
Yeah.
lingers around at Disney for no good reason. And the boat parade, it's like the Main Street Electrical Parade in California, but it's boats that are floating around in the river. And it's silly, but boy, it was good. It was
Yeah.
stupid and silly and cheesy, and I was really into it. So I have to say,
It was pretty cool.
yeah. And I have had some great experiences at Walt Disney World. Years ago, when I went around the world with Mickey and Scully, we got in the Chris Craft boat where we watched the show on the water in Epcot, what my friend Eric called Mistake on the Lake, because it wasn't very good. But we were in the Chris Craft and it had like champagne, and then you have champagne in the Chris Craft boat, and then they go full throttle boating around on the lake. And it's really fun.
Oh, that does
That's
sound fun.
expensive, but it's really great. Anyway, but I like that boat parade. It was cheesy fun. Okay, finally, in our last remaining moments here, Romaine,
Yeah.
we did get a very nice comment. Rudy says that they enjoy hearing the two of us again.
Aw, well,
I know.
thanks. You can hear
Yeah, I
it
agree.
anytime if you subscribe to the show. Go to dnrstudios.com. I suggest getting the DNR Plus subscription so you can get our show plus all the other shows on the network, but that's just me.
That's
And then
right.
listen on our DNR Cast app, which is also amazing.
It is great to see and hear us. So we're glad to do the summer sessions, and we're glad to have you subscribing at dnrstudio.com.
Yes.
Well, we will see you next Tuesday for our very last, the season finale
The final one.
of summer sessions. So join us then. You won't want to miss it. It could be exciting. It's whatever. It's just gonna be another one of
It'll
these.
be great.
Yeah. Because we're great.
Yeah.
Goodbye.